Today is February. Oh, is it February? March 9, 2023. Another exploration of the Holy Writings in an Afro-centric perspective. What we will be considering today is chapter 17 and chapter 18. These seem to be very short chapters, and just on chapter 17, it's mostly about the renewal of the covenant, where God comes back again and renews the covenant with Abraham, blessing him to be the father of many nations. That we know. But something new happened. His name changes from Abram to Abraham. So it it is like a H was added to his name as a sign that he will be father to many nations. The other thing that happens is that Sarai, who is his wife, she is 90 years old at this point, and her name too is changed to Sarah with an H. So Abraham was Abraham, and what was added to his name was an H and an A, and then for Sarai, it was an H, and the I was replaced by the H. I am not sure what that means, if has any significance in terms of showing a multiplication in the H. Um, Maybe it is something to investigate, but to as far as this part is concerned, it's really about giving them um, that um, that blessing, having that covenant. So, but two things we have to um, recognize here. The first one is that Sarah is blessed after Hagar was blessed by the angel. Remember the Egyptian woman that gave birth to Ishmael, the first son of Abraham, who came from an Egyptian woman. And 13 years go by, and Sarai has not um, conceived. And it seems like she gets that blessing, but the blessing comes after Hagar was blessed by the Lord. What does it mean in terms of significance? And I don't want to read into it that much, but my intuition is that I don't know how fertile the, I'll say, the women of pre that were living at that time, or that were related to Abraham, how fertile they were. But it seems like there is an issue here, because remember that um, Abraham's father did not get married also until he was late. He was 75. Abraham was still living at his house when he was 75. That's when he left. He was married, and soon after, they went to Egypt, like 2 years in, 1 year in, and they went to Egypt. And that's where everything just kind of got started for him financially, um, I'll say security wise, as well as procreation, because it was a black woman or an African woman that gave birth to the first child, and she was blessed. And you can see that um, the fertility of the black woman is not to be questioned. I think it's just even the phenotype of the black woman, as far as the curves and the constitutional buildup, is conducive to um, a predisposition for procreation that is unmatched by any other race, I would believe. I know. And what we know is that she produces also the most diverse genetic um, material that is out there. In Africa, you find everything, even the possibility of um, giving birth to a non-melanated child in the case of albino. Now, that's what happened, and that seems to have a certain correlation. Does it also have a relation with the fact that um, the attention of the black woman in our days or in our society today is heightened but is occupied by something that is uh, not necessarily towards um, making sure that the best genetic material and the cohesion of that structure is there. And who is buying that attention? I would I would suggest that entertainment is one thing that has really consumed the attention of many nowadays, including me, but I'll say more damaging um, when it comes to that. Is it a sign that people who own that industry own them? Is a form of ownership of the um, woman of African descent? I think it's stretching the imagination, but I know that there is something there that could be found. The other thing that we found in this chapter is when God renews the covenant with Abraham, he asks him to circumcise everyone in his household, and including himself. He was 99 when this happened. And they circumcised everybody born in his house. We know he didn't have any children except Ishmael in his house, or bought with money of any stranger. That's in verse 12. So if he took from Egypt um, the handsmen and handswomen that were serving in his house, that later served as a security apparatus for him, it is conceivable that early uh, Africans also were part of that covenant or responded to that covenant as a result of being either bought or being given to Abraham when he was leaving um, Egypt. Now, their name change. In chapter 18, it's mostly when Abraham actually sees the Lord in the in the I think in the market at the gate of the city and recognize that it was my Lord, his Lord, right? And he went up to ask of them to come eat food. The versions that I knew before made it feel as if Abraham did not know what those guests were, right? And but chapter 18 in this translation says, and the Lord appeared unto him in the plains of Mare, and he sat in the tent door in the heat of the day. And he lifted up his eyes and looked, and lo, 3 men stood by him. And when he saw them, he ran to meet them from the tent door and bowed himself towards the ground. So the Lord was already with him, and then he went to get those 3 other men that were with the Lord. And this resulted in a discussion with um, the Lord, who was going to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah because of the cry of Sodom and Gomorrah that the Lord has heard. And there is an interesting concept here in verse 20, where it says, "And the Lord said, because the cry of Sodom and Gomorrah is great, and because their sin is very grievous, I will go down now and see whether they have done altogether according to the cry of it, which is come unto me. And if not, I will know." This questions a little bit the omnipotence and the omniscience of the Lord, because he's supposed to be everywhere and know everything. But in this case, he's coming down himself to look whether this is true, what is the cry he's receiving. It's kind of some sort of technology that transmits whatever is happening on Earth and transmits it to through a satellite, or we can conceptualize that as a satellite, and it is possible to know what is happening here. And he came down to look for himself, because it seems like this technology or this ability to look is not as reliable as the human experience of what is happening on Earth. And that is really interesting, because it also makes a case for entities or spaces to have borders, and borders that prevent people from outside with different interests to come in there to learn their way of living and exploit that way of living and weaknesses to overrun them and take the land. So uh, that's why in French they usually say le linge sale se lave en famille. I think your dirty laundry have to be taken care of in the house. And too quickly we are inclined to expose what is not going well in our subcontinent or in our home and things of that nature. And it is a danger, because this exposes, this will show other people what is actually going there, and it's not always pretty, which can be in turn be used against ourselves and has been used against ourselves, because all the secrets were then taken away um, and exposed into museum and make money, while we were taught that whatever we had was some sort of witchcraft that should not be taken seriously, and our spirituality just went away like that. So it's interesting to see that the Lord is doing that. The other thing is that there is a discussion between Abraham and the Lord regarding what number of people are sufficient for the city to be spared. And he started at 55%, or I'll say 55 people, but this is not people, it's really percentage, and down to 10%. When Abraham saw that if at 10% it could be saved, the Lord walked out of the conversation they were having. So, two things: stating that nobody has seen God is a stretch, and many people uh, try to make feel as if this angel or this um, spiritual being that was interacting with Abraham here was different from the Lord that he has been interacting with all through this journey of blessing. Now, um, that means that it could be possible that he had direct contact with that being. And that could be also a testament that maybe uh, there is something of humane or humanity in the being that really was interacting with Abraham. The other thing is that the percentage part, right? 10% seems to be a number that has a great significance. One, 10% is the threshold to which God um, would not destroy a people, and it shows that when there is adversity, when there is chaos, you do not need many people to jump on board to make the change that is necessary. All you need is 10% of the population who are wired and willing to make things change, to see those changes happen. And it goes without saying that even in our subcontinent or wherever geographical location we have, it is not necessary to have everybody buy into what you're trying to do or what you are envisioning. All you need is one, yourself, or 10% of yourself, and 10% of everybody. If you have those 10%, you are really on a way to change and provide that change of course that is necessary. 10 also comes back when it comes to tithing. The Lord is asking for 10% of what you have and see if He will not bless you beyond what you could imagine. So the 10% has a significance here. Where else did we see 10? So those places, I think they are not small in terms of consideration, and it's really a good way to excuse me. 10% is a good way to gauge progress also when we are doing personal development, or we are just gauging, we're going against some of the weaknesses that we have. It is great to see an incremental change, because the 100% of things could be very daunting and paralyzing to the point that you won't do anything. But if you have an increment of 10%, that will be the small chunk that needs to be happening for you to get to the next 10%. Before you know it, this becomes very exponential, and you can see the results that you were hoping to get. Even in time, when you have like habit of being late, just cut it in 10. 10, 10, 10, 10 before you know it. You get there. So 10%. And we do this not at 10%, it's 100%. Unfortunately, the last 2 days I wasn't able to download some of these writings, so we are done here. I'll try to do something else tomorrow or Sunday for chapter 19 and let me see if 20. 19 is quite large. We'll see what has what we have there. Maybe it's a lot of material, and if not, but 20 is very short, so we can do 19 and 20. So that's a good number, and we'll get that. Okay. Thank you for those who open to hear this, and for those who will expand on this, because it's not exhaustive, and they can see what message our ancestors wanted to give us through these scriptures that have been touched, obviously, to give a different image that has not served us, has not served Africa, has not served our forefathers, and will not serve those who come after us. And we can wait for it not to serve those who will come generations after generations. Before we know it, we will not be there. But if we can make a shift individually on how we see these messages, and start really affecting our own lives and seeing and questioning things that we didn't question before, I think it will be in itself a start, a good start. Because if those who come after us will have a glimpse of this, because also we built from those who came before us, who were courageous enough and bold enough to say what they felt strongly to be the case, or the fate of the of people of African descent. And I can see a bright future for us. I can see really not only for us but for humanity and for the gods, for everything that will be able to bless um, Africa. And if we can salvage that, it will be a change that is really difficult to measure at this point. So with that having being said, I'll see you in the next 2 days so that we can go over 19 and 20. Bye bye for now.